In this officer's mind, his local power couldn't be challenged. A shield against any challenge, the power of his badge, a hammer to every nail he encountered. But he never anticipated the quiet resolve of a woman who built her life on precision, integrity, and the very rules he sought to twist. Before we continue, if you are watching our video for the first time, please bless and support us by hitting that subscribe button and comment where you are watching from. It began on a Tuesday evening, the air in Oakhaven still holding the day's warmth as Dr. Althea Hayes conducted a final walkthrough of the new Meadowbrook Community Pavilion. Streetlights cast a gentle glow on the innovative structure, a project she had poured years into, from the initial designs to these finishing touches. Althea, a celebrated urban planner whose work was known for its seamless blend of functionality and community spirit, was humming softly, checking the automated lighting sequences, her mind already on her next flight out for a conference. She was dressed in practical trousers and a simple blouse, her focus entirely on the task at hand. She wasn't speeding, wasn't trespassing, wasn't doing anything but her job, ensuring every detail was perfect for the grand opening. But Inspector Marcus Thorne saw an opportunity. Parked across the street in his marked city vehicle, he'd been watching the pavilion, a scowl on his face. Thorne had a reputation in Oakhaven, a man who found problems where none existed, who wielded his limited power with an oversized sense of importance. The pavilion, a project championed by a new city council he disliked, represented everything he found irksome: progress outside expertise, things he didn't control. He saw Althea, a woman he didn't recognize, and decided to make his presence felt. The red and blue lights flashed to life with a suddenness that made Althea blink, interrupting the serene play of light on the building's facade. She turned, a slight frown creasing her brow, as Thorne's vehicle pulled up, blocking the main walkway. The car door slammed with unnecessary force. Althea watched as a stocky man approached, his hand resting near his belt, a clipboard clutched in the other. He didn't introduce himself. "This area is closed after dusk, ma'am," he stated, his voice flat, devoid of any courtesy. Althea kept her composure. "Good evening, officer. I'm Dr. Hayes, the lead architect for this project. I'm conducting a final systems check." Thorne squinted, his gaze sweeping over her dismissively. "Don't care who you are. This is municipal property. You need authorization for after-hours access." Althea raised an eyebrow, her tone remaining even. "My firm has full authorization from the city manager's office. It's all documented. May I ask what the issue is?" Thorne's lips tightened. He clearly wasn't expecting her calm, informed response. "The issue," he said, tapping his clipboard, "is that I'm seeing multiple potential code violations with these exterior fixtures. Looks like they might not comply with the new lumens per square foot ordinance." Althea's expression didn't change, but a flicker of surprise registered internally. "The LSF 22 ordinance? We consulted directly with the city engineering department on that. These fixtures are well within compliance, specifically chosen for their low impact and adherence to dark sky principles." Thorne smirked. "That's your opinion. I'm the one who interprets the code here. And from where I'm standing, it looks like a violation." He took a step closer. "I'm going to have to issue a notice, and you need to vacate the premises now." Althea stood her ground, not intimidated, just assessing. The way he spoke, the immediate jump to a violation without any real inspection, it felt wrong. Felt personal. Inspector Marcus Thorne was not accustomed to being questioned, especially not by someone he perceived as an outsider meddling in his town. His 15 years as a code enforcement officer in Oakhaven had molded him into a man who saw rules not as guidelines for safety and order, but as instruments of personal authority. He prided himself on his thoroughness, which often translated to nitpicking and an overzealous application of obscure ordinances, particularly when it suited him. His colleagues at the city planning department knew his tendencies. Quick to issue citations, slow to listen, and utterly convinced of his own infallibility. When Althea Hayes didn't immediately capitulate, didn't show the deference he expected, Thorne's irritation grew. "A notice for what, exactly?" Althea asked, her voice still calm, but with an underlying firmness that was hard to miss. You haven't even taken any readings or specified which fixtures you believe are non-compliant. Thorne scoffed, puffing out his chest slightly. I don't need to take readings when it's this obvious. I know a violation when I see one, and you're interfering with an official inspection by arguing. Althea took a slow breath. She recognized the pattern. The assertion of authority, the dismissal of facts, the attempt to intimidate. I'm not arguing, Inspector. I'm seeking clarification. This project has passed every previous inspection, and we have meticulous documentation for every component, including the lighting. Perhaps there's a misunderstanding of the ordinance's application here. Thorne's face hardened. The only misunderstanding is you thinking you can tell me how to do my job. I'm writing this up. Expect a formal notice of violation by morning. And if these fixtures aren't rectified, he said, using air quotes with a sneer, there will be daily fines until they are. He turned to walk back to his vehicle, then paused. And I'd advise you to stay away from here after hours. Wouldn't want to find you trespassing. Althea watched him go, a sense of dismay settling in. This wasn't about public safety or code compliance. This was about power. As Thorne drove off, she pulled out her phone, not to make an angry call, but to take detailed photographs of the lighting, the ambient conditions, and to make a voice note meticulously recounting the entire interaction. His exact words, his demeanor. She knew then that this wasn't going to be a simple misunderstanding to clear up. Back at his small office the next morning, Thorne was in a self-satisfied mood. He typed up the violation notice with a flourish, detailing excessive and non-compliant illumination levels at the Meadowbrook Pavilion. He mentioned to his junior colleague, David Miller, had to deal with some uppity architect last night, thinks she knows better than us. Put her in her place. Miller, who had reviewed the pavilion's plans months ago and remembered them being exceptionally thorough, just nodded quietly, a sliver of doubt in his mind. He'd heard whispers about Thorne's heavy-handedness before. Thorne, however, was oblivious. He believed he had asserted his dominance. He had no idea that Althea Hayes was already on a video call with her legal counsel and the Oak Haven city manager, calmly presenting her account and the preliminary evidence she had gathered. She wasn't shouting or demanding. She was outlining a problem and proposing a formal review. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning, and Thorne had grossly underestimated his opponent. Dr. Althea Hayes was not a confrontational person by nature. Her career was built on collaboration, precision, and a deep respect for process. But she also possessed an unyielding intolerance for injustice and the abuse of authority, especially when it threatened work designed to benefit a community. The notice of violation arrived via official courier, just as Thorne had promised, citing exorbitant potential fines. Althea read it, her expression thoughtful rather than angry. This wasn't just about a few light fixtures. It was about the integrity of her work and the dangerous precedent of an official misusing their power. She instructed her legal team to formally appeal the violation and request a hearing before the Oak Haven Municipal Review Board. She also began compiling a comprehensive dossier. The complete lighting plans, manufacturer specifications, photometric data, correspondence with the city engineering department confirming their interpretation of LSF 22, and a sworn affidavit detailing Thorne's conduct during the site visit. She even commissioned an independent lighting engineer to conduct an immediate certified assessment of the pavilion's fixtures, which, predictably, found them to be fully compliant and, in fact, exemplary in their design for minimizing light pollution. Meanwhile, word of the violation and Althea's appeal began to circulate within Oak Haven's small municipal government. City Manager Thompson, a reasonable man who had been proud to bring Althea's firm to Oak Haven, was concerned. He'd had minor run-ins with Thorne's overzealousness before, but never on a project of this scale or with someone of Dr. Hayes' caliber. He called Thorne into his office. "Marcus, what's this I hear about a major violation at the new pavilion? Dr. Hayes is appealing, and frankly, her preliminary report raises some questions about the stop." Thorne was indignant. "She was argumentative, sir. The lights are too bright. It's a clear violation of LSF 22. I was just doing my job." Thompson looked at him over his glasses. LSF 22 is about energy efficiency and preventing upward light spillage, Marcus, not just raw brightness. Her team worked with our engineers on this for months. Are you absolutely certain your interpretation is correct, and that it's being applied consistently across the city? Thorne bristled. Of course, I'm certain. It's my job to be certain. He didn't mention that he hadn't actually taken any measurements, relying instead on his experienced eye. He also didn't mention that several older city buildings, and some businesses owned by his friends, likely exceeded those same lumen outputs but had never been cited. He left the manager's office feeling more entrenched in his position. This architect was trying to undermine him to make him look foolish. He wouldn't back down. The date for the Municipal Review Board hearing was set. Althea, despite her busy schedule, made it clear she would attend in person. She wasn't just sending a lawyer. She was coming to defend her work, her reputation, and a principle. Thorne, on the other hand, viewed the hearing as a mere formality, a chance to publicly assert his authority and put this outsider in her place once and for all. He prepared by rereading the ordinance, convincing himself ever more firmly of his own righteousness, completely unaware of the meticulous case being built against his arbitrary decision. The Oak Haven Municipal Review Board hearing room was moderately filled. A few local citizens interested in the new pavilion, some city employees, and Althea Hayes, seated calmly with her counsel, Ms. Anya Sharma. Inspector Marcus Thorne sat at the opposing table, looking confident, almost smug, occasionally whispering to the city's deputy attorney who seemed less at ease. The board members, a panel of 5 respected community figures, took their seats. The chairperson, Eleanor Vance, a retired judge, called the hearing to order. This is an appeal filed by Dr. Althea Hayes concerning a notice of violation issued by Code Enforcement Officer Marcus Thorne regarding the Meadowbrook Community Pavilion. Ms. Sharma spoke first, her voice clear and measured. Chairperson Vance, members of the board, we are here today because Officer Thorne has, we believe, fundamentally misinterpreted and misapplied Ordinance LSF 22. Far from being in violation, the lighting at the Meadowbrook Pavilion is a model of compliance and responsible design. We will demonstrate that Dr. Hayes and her team not only met but exceeded the requirements of all applicable city codes, and that Officer Thorne's actions were arbitrary and without basis. She then systematically presented Althea's evidence. Detailed blueprints, the independent lighting engineer's certified report with specific lumen readings and distribution patterns, and correspondence with city engineers. Althea herself then spoke, not with anger, but with the quiet authority of an expert. The LSF 22 ordinance is designed to ensure energy efficiency and protect our night sky. We share those goals wholeheartedly. Every fixture was selected and calibrated to provide safe, welcoming illumination while strictly adhering to those principles. Officer Thorne cited us without taking any measurements, without specifying which fixtures were problematic, and indeed, before the pavilion was even officially operational. When it was Thorne's turn, he seemed flustered by the sheer volume and precision of Althea's evidence. He relied on bluster. With all due respect, I've been an inspector for 15 years. I know what compliant lighting looks like and what it doesn't. Those lights were too bright. The ordinance gives inspectors discretion. Chairperson Vance interjected. Discretion, Officer Thorne? Yes, but not carte blanche for arbitrary decisions, especially when specific metrics are part of the ordinance. Did you use a photometer or any measuring device on the night in question? Thorne shifted in his seat. It wasn't necessary. The violation was obvious to the naked eye. A board member, a local engineer, frowned. Officer Thorne, obvious to the naked eye, isn't a quantifiable measure, especially for an ordinance that has specific lumen per square foot guidelines. Dr. Hayes has provided certified measurements showing compliance. Do you have any data to refute this? Thorne stammered, well, no, not data, but my experience. The deputy city attorney tried to salvage the situation, but the damage was done. The contrast between Althea's meticulous, evidence-based presentation and Thorne's reliance on subjective opinion and vague appeals to authority was stark. The board members exchanged glances. Finally, Chairperson Vance stated, The board will deliberate. We will reconvene in 30 minutes with our decision. As they filed out, Thorne's smugness had vanished, replaced by a dawning unease. Althea simply took a sip of water, her expression unchanged. The truth, she knew, had its own weight. The board returned. Chairperson Vance looked directly at Thorne. The Oak Haven Municipal Review Board finds unanimously in favor of the appellant, Dr. Althea Hayes. The notice of violation is hereby rescinded. Furthermore, she continued, her voice firm, this board is deeply concerned by the apparent lack of due process and empirical evidence in the issuance of this citation. We will be recommending to the city manager a formal review of Officer Thorne's recent enforcement activities and additional training on the proper application of city ordinances. Thorne's face fell. He looked stunned, defeated. Althea Hayes merely nodded, a quiet acknowledgement. Justice, like good design, often required patience and precision. The power Thorne thought was his shield had crumbled against the simple weight of facts, presented by a woman he had so foolishly underestimated. His career, built on intimidation, was now under a spotlight he couldn't control.